I'm going to show you the 10 cheat codes that I've used to go from a failing trader for over 2 years, not just thinking about giving up on trading, but honestly questioning how I was ever going to make any money in general, to eventually being profitable. Here is over $4,000 profit just in the last 2 months on just one of our live accounts, with a 74% win rate and an average of 1.5 risk to reward. And what I've learned through all of this is something that people really don't want to hear. Trading success is actually simple, but simple does not mean easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. And that's exactly why cheat codes matter. So let's get into it. Before anything else, I need to be very clear about how HJC trades, because everything in this video is built on that foundation. Our strategy is burst/breakout combined with liquidity sweeps, inverse fair value gaps, and fair value gaps. Basically, we trade continuations. And below is a textbook example. I'm not trying to predict tops or bottoms. I'm not trying to be clever. I'm not trying to call reversals. I'm trying to align with momentum, structure, and expansion, and execute one repeatable idea in the right conditions. Everything that follows only works if you understand that. Cheat code 1, become a one-trick pony. Trading is just like any other competitive game, so treat it like one. If you're trying to improve at Fortnite, the fastest way to get better isn't landing at a different POI every single game, switching loadouts, changing sensitivity every day, and copying whatever strategy you saw on TikTok that morning. That just makes the game harder than it needs to be. Good Fortnite players one-trick their fundamentals. Same drop, same rotations, same fighting patterns, same decision making. They build muscle memory and intuition through repetition. If you're grinding FIFA, it's the same thing. The quickest way to climb divisions isn't changing formation, tactics, and playstyle every single match. You don't switch from tiki-taka to counter-attack to park the bus every game based on vibes. You pick a system, learn how it behaves, and execute it well. Trading is exactly the same. Most traders are stuck because they're trying to trade everything. One day it's ICT, next day it's SMC, then supply and demand, then indicators, then some Twitter thread, and then a Discord strategy. Their attention is split in 10 different directions, and nothing compounds. Success in trading doesn't come from how much you know. It comes from depth of understanding. Like Bruce Lee said, I don't fear the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. I only trade continuations, specifically burst/breakout, aligned with structure, liquidity sweeps, and fair value gaps and inverse fair value gaps. That constraint alone made trading dramatically easier. Trading does not pay you based on effort. It does not pay you based on how many trades you take. It pays you based on the quality of your decisions. You can take 100 mediocre trades and still lose money. But if you take 10 high-quality repeatable trades, you will make money. Most traders live in what I call the zone of losing. About 90% of traders are stuck there. They're focused on 5 to 10 different things at once. SMC this, ICT that, some new indicator, some exotic pattern. They're constantly chasing. If you put all that energy into one approach, you break out of that zone. Consistency only comes when all your trades look the same. Most of you think you're supposed to catch moves in the market. If price moves 50 points and you're not in it, you feel bad. You chase. I traded like that for 2 years and it destroyed me. Everything changed when I stopped trying to catch everything and started trading one defined setup backed by data and nothing else. Best traders I know put the most constraints on themselves, because if you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing. That's cheat code number 1. Cheat code number 2, track everything. Every problem you have in trading can be solved with data. If you journal your trades 1,000 times, don't do it. Or you do it badly, or you stop when things go wrong because it feels painful. But let me ask you something honestly. Do you really think that you deserve to be profitable without doing any hard work? I didn't. I thought I was different. I thought I was smarter. And then I got absolutely destroyed by the market for over 2 years. If there were ever a holy grail in trading, it would be journaling properly. Most people journal to prove they're right, to prove they're profitable. I do the opposite. I journal to prove what doesn't work. Every trade I take is data. Whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. It's always a net gain if I learn something. What gets measured gets managed. What gets managed gets improved. You cannot improve what you cannot define. If you wanted to lose weight, the first thing you do is step on a scale. If you want to get stronger in the gym, you track your lifts. Trading is no different. Profitable strategy is just the correct combination of answers to small questions. When do I trade? What market conditions help me? What entry model works best? What hurts my performance? You cannot answer those questions without data. I track everything. Time of day, market conditions, structure, entry model, continuation quality, liquidity context. Then I look at what increases my win rate and what decreases it. If something helps, I do more of it. If something hurts, I do less of it. Or I invert it. Most traders stop journaling when they're losing. That is insane. That's when the most invaluable information exists. If you've journaled 500 trades properly and you're still unprofitable, that would actually be amazing, because you'd have a perfect blueprint of what not to do. Doing the opposite of that would make you profitable. Journaling gives you clarity, and clarity kills most psychological problems. For me, taking a bad trade is obvious. It's like touching a hot stove. I don't need discipline. I have data. Most of you are trading blind, guessing, hoping, and then wondering why you get burned. You need to define what a good trade looks like before you take it. That's cheat code number 2. Cheat code number 3, lower the difficulty. There's absolutely a difficult setting in trading, just like there is in any other game. And most traders, without realizing it, are playing on the hardest possible mode. And the funny thing is, they think that that's what makes them serious. In reality, they're just making the game harder than it needs to be. In UFC, if your goal is to actually win games more consistently, you don't need to fight on max difficulty every single match. Fighting 6 people that are very good, hoping everything does perfectly, is deluded. Sure, sometimes it works and it feels amazing when it does, but over 100 fights, it's a terrible strategy. In FIFA, if you're trying to climb divisions, you don't constantly attempt first time through balls, skill chain every defender, and force impossible shots from bad angles. That's how you lose possession, concede counters, and tilt. Good players make the game easier for themselves. Most traders do the opposite. They build strategies that are insanely complex. 10 confluences, 5 time frames, multiple entry models, and so many rules that stack onto each other. Then they wonder why they can't execute. And then they gas at themselves and say, if I could just be more disciplined, if I'd be profitable. That's bullshit. You don't lack discipline, you lack clarity. A strategy can be theoretically perfect, but if you can only execute it 30 to 40% of the time, it doesn't matter. An average strategy executed well will outperform a perfect strategy executed poorly every single time. My goal in trading is not to have the most optimal strategy. My goal is to have the simplest strategy that I can execute perfectly when I simplified my approach. Burst, liquidity sweep, inverse fair value gap, or fair value gap. Continuations only. My results improved faster than at any other point in my trading career. Being consistently good is far better than being occasionally brilliant. Lowering the difficulty isn't weakness, it's intelligence. Cheat code number 4. Trade only when conditions are easy. One of the biggest lies traders believe is that you're supposed to trade every single day. You're not. Trading does not reward effort, screen time, or showing up. It rewards selectivity. The market does not owe you a trade just because you're present. This is where most traders sabotage themselves, because they confuse patience with laziness. They feel like if they're not clicking buttons, they're wasting time, but inactivity is not the same as inaction. Sometimes inactivity is the correct action. I keep on going back to it. But if you played Fortnite or any other game, you already understand this intuitively. Not every game is winnable. Sometimes you got terrible loot, bad zone pools, awkward rotations, and every fight feels forced. The worst thing you can do in those games is pretend conditions are good when they're not, and start forcing engagements. Trading is exactly the same. If you take continuations, you need directional, expanding conditions. You need clean momentum, clear structure, and space for price to move. When the market is choppy, overlapping, slow, or compressed, continuation trades stop working. And yet this is when most traders trade the most. They stare at the chart, get bored, and start convincing themselves that something is there. They lower their standards, they force entries, they take almost setups, and then they wonder why their edge stops working. Your emotional response to the market is actually valuable information. If you feel frustrated, impatient, or confused while you look at price, that's feedback. The market is telling you that the conditions are not favorable for your strategy. The best traders I know only trade when it feels easy, when the setup stands out, when it's obvious, when execution feels almost boring. And here's the paradox. The less you trade, the more money you make. Because every trade you don't take protects your capital for the moments when conditions actually align. Quality over quantity isn't cliche, it's survival. Code number 5. Adapt to the meta or the market will humble you. The market has a meta whether you acknowledge it or not. And just like any other competitive game, ignoring the meta doesn't make you principled, it makes you lose. In rugby, the meta changes constantly. One season rewards fast-paced, expansive attacking play. Another season rewards structured set-piece dominance and defensive pressure. If you keep playing the same way regardless of the trends, you're going to get punished. The NBA is the same. One season favors fast breaks and high volume. Another season rewards half-court sets, defensive rotations, and controlled pace. If you refuse to adapt, you'll start losing games that don't make sense. But they do. Markets behave exactly like this. There are periods where continuation-based strategies work beautifully. Momentum expands cleanly, structure holds, price respects the inverse fair value gaps. Everything feels smooth. And then there are periods where the market becomes choppy, overlapping, news-driven, or erratic. And that same strategy starts bleeding. Most traders don't realize their edge is conditional. They think if something worked before, it should always work. And when it stops working, they blame themselves instead of the environment. This is why data matters so much. Your journal tells you when the meta favors you and when it doesn't. It shows you which conditions increase your win rate and which ones destroy it. That allows you to adjust exposure, not abandon your strategy. When the meta favors you, you push harder. When it doesn't, you pull back. Adaptation is not weakness, it's survival. The traders who lost are not the ones with the best strategy. They're the ones who recognize when conditions have changed and respond accordingly. Cheat code number 6, control your focus. This is where most traders actually lose. Your ability to control your focus is the most important skill in trading. Not your strategy, not your entry model, not your risk management, your focus. Most traders don't lose because their strategy is bad. They lose because their attention is constantly being hijacked. And the moment your focus shifts away from execution and towards outcomes, trading becomes dramatically harder. You've probably experienced this firsthand. You trade perfectly fine on demo or with a very small lot size, and then the second the money becomes real, everything falls apart. You hesitate, you rush, you force, you miss obvious setups or take garbage ones. The market didn't change, your focus did. You're now trying to do two things at once. Execute your strategy and emotionally manage the outcome. And when you split your attention like that, both suffer. Think about a group project at university. If you obsess over getting an A instead of focusing on your part, coordinating with your teammates, and meeting the deadline, you're going to make dumb decisions. You'll take on tasks you shouldn't, mismanage your time, and stress unnecessarily. Or think about trying to cook a complicated meal. If you're constantly worrying about impressing everyone, instead of following the recipe, prepping the ingredients properly, and timing each step, you'll start making mistakes, burning dishes, and ruining the final result. Trading works exactly the same way. This is why negative visualization is such a powerful tool. Before you trade, you should visualize yourself executing your setup perfectly. Clean continuation, proper stop, proper risk management, then practice being completely okay with that. This does two things. It lowers your expectations and it removes emotional attachment to the result. When expectations are low, resilience is high. Most traders do the opposite. They fantasize about payouts, profits, passing challenges, and finally making it. And then they lose. They're not just losing money, they're losing fantasy they built in their head. That doubles the emotional pain and leads directly to tilt. When you're focused entirely on the process, trading becomes lighter, cleaner, simpler. Elite players in any performance-based domain don't think about the rewards, they think about execution, and the outcomes follow. Cheat code number 7, learn to sit with pain and stop running from it. If you want to be profitable long term, you need to stop trying to avoid pain. Trading is uncomfortable by nature. Losses hurt, drawdowns hurt, missing trades hurt, watching price move without you hurts. That discomfort is unavoidable. What is optional is how you respond to it. Most traders are unprofitable because they spend all their energy trying to avoid pain. They avoid journaling because it's uncomfortable. They avoid reviewing losses because it bruises their ego. They avoid confronting patterns in their behavior because it forces accountability. But pain is where that information lives. Think about the gym. Muscle doesn't grow during the workout. It grows during recovery because of the stress. The soreness is a signal that adaptation is happening. Trading works the exact same way, like I've been saying. Every loss contains feedback. Every drawdown contains lessons. If you sit with the discomfort long enough to extract the lesson, that pain becomes productive. The problem is that most traders want the rewards of growth without experiencing the discomfort required to earn it. Once you reframe your pain as tuition, everything changes. A losing trade stops being a failure and starts being a data point. A bad week stops being a crisis and starts being diagnostic. The question shifts from why am I bad to what is this trying to teach me? The traders who last are not the ones who feel the least pain. They're the ones who've learned how to sit with it without reacting. Pain with purpose leads to progress. Cheat code number 8, invert the game. Don't try to win, avoid losing. One of the smartest ways to approach trading is through inversion. Instead of constantly asking, how do I win more? Ask, how do I lose? There are only two ways to fail in trading. Losing too big and losing too often. That's it. No mystery. Losing too big is solved with basic risk management. Fixed risk per trade, daily loss limits, hard stops. This part is easy, yet most people still ignore it. Losing too often is where most traders struggle. And it's not because they can't find winners, it's because they take too many bad trades. Most unprofitable traders already know what their bad trades look like. They just keep taking them. If you're blowing money every month, it isn't bad luck, it's bad spending decisions. If you keep getting burned in relationships or work, it isn't random, it's overcommitting without thinking through the consequences. Trading is no different. Avoiding bad trades is significantly easier than finding the perfect ones. You don't need brilliance, you need restraint. If you simply remove the bottom 20 to 30% of your trades, you take the forced ones, the emotional ones, the low quality ones, most of you would already be profitable. Inversion simplifies everything. Don't ask how to be smarter, ask how to stop being stupid. That alone puts you ahead of 90% of traders. Cheat code number 9, learn how to learn. Most traders never do. Most traders don't actually know how to learn. They confuse consuming information with acquiring a skill. Watching videos, reading threads, and hopping between strategies feels productive. But really, it changes behavior. Learning only occurs when behavior changes. Think back to Fortnite. You don't get better by watching pros all day. You get better by dropping into games, making mistakes, reviewing why you died, and adjusting your decisions to the next match. In FIFA, watching highlights doesn't improve your defending. Reviewing your own conceded goals does. Trading, once again, is no different. Most traders stay stuck because their behavior never changes. They lose the same way for the same reasons, week after week, while expecting different results. The learning loop is simple. Take trades, journal them, review patterns, adjust rules, repeat. That's it. One of the fastest ways to accelerate this process is teaching. When you try to explain your approach to someone else, you're forced to clarify why you do what you do. You can't hide behind vague intuition anymore. Teaching exposes gaps in understanding, and those gaps are gold. Reps beats research, experience beats theory. You don't learn by avoiding mistakes. You learn by making them consciously and extracting the lesson. If your behavior hasn't changed, you haven't learned. Cheat code number 10. Trading is an infinite game. This changes everything. Trading is not something you win. It's something you stay in. There is no finish line, no final level, no moment where you figure it out and everything becomes easy forever. The market will always evolve and it will always challenge you in new ways. This is why short-term thinking destroys traders. When you treat trading like a sprint, you over-risk, you chase, you force outcomes, you burn out. When you treat it like an infinite game, the priorities change completely. Capital preservation becomes more important than big wins. Consistency becomes more important than excitement. Learning becomes more important than ego. You stop asking, how much can I make this week? And start asking, how do I stay profitable for the next 5 years? Markets change. You will have good periods and bad ones. Every trader does, even the best ones. The edge is not avoiding bad periods. The edge is surviving them. If you respect the infinite natures of trading, take capital, adapt, keep learning, profitability becomes inevitable over time. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And if you keep playing the game properly, you won't need luck.